Hello. I want to remake this video. I actually made a video very similar to this a while ago, but now I have more experience with YouTube. I can make a better video. The intention of this video is to teach somebody who is new to this stuff how to correctly use Teflon tape and pipe dope. And so this is not meant for professional plumbers. If you are a professional plumber, then obviously you already have the training, education, and experience in this, and you don't need to watch me. You don't need this video. This is for people that are homeowners or brand new to this, who either they have to make a repair because it's an emergency and something is leaking, or they have to fix something, and for whatever reason they can't or don't want to hire a plumber, or it's just somebody that's, a new homeowner, a child of a single parent that doesn't have other people in their life that can help them with this stuff, and they have to go to YouTube to look up how to do this stuff, which is okay. I know what that's like. And so I hope this video can help somebody else. So I'm just going to get to the point, and we're going to start talking about plumbing Teflon tape and pipe dope. And I'm going to teach you a couple things that I did not know at first that I think would have been very helpful to learn if I was new to this. So let's start talking. First of all, this is Teflon tape, okay? If you're brand new to this stuff, you probably have this stuff right here, this white Teflon tape. And you may not know about stuff like pipe dope, so we're going to address all this stuff here. But before we even get to that, where do you actually use Teflon tape and pipe dope versus using something like a rubber gasket? So you have two types of threads, basically. You have straight cut threads, which is where you see stuff like in automotive applications where the bolt can run all the way down and it doesn't tighten until it's at the very, very end. Plumbing threads aren't like that. Plumbing threads are actually tapered, which means they get wider the further down you go. So they're more narrow at the top and they get wider down there, which means the more you turn them, they will get tighter and tighter and tighter. And they seal off of the threads. So anytime you have these tapered plumbing threads is when you would use Teflon tape or pipe dope. Where you don't use them is on things that seal off of these rubber gaskets and O-rings. You don't use Teflon tape and pipe dope on that because they're not doing any sort of sealing on the threads. They're sealing off these gaskets. So if that's what you're using, you can discount Teflon tape and pipe dope right off the bat. So let's start to talk for a second here. And this video might be a little bit longer, but I promise you there sincerely is some good information in this. And I really will try to keep it short and to the point in which you need to know. So let me open these packages up here. These are just copper pipe fittings, 1/2 inch, but depending on what you're working on, if it's tapered plumbing threads, it's tapered plumbing threads. They're all essentially the same basic principle, and this will apply whether it's 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, etc. I want to point something out here. These are made in the USA fittings. They're Streamline brand. If you're a professional plumber, I'm sure you're going to have things to say about Streamline, Nibco, Viega, all these brands. It doesn't matter at this point. That's not what this video is about. But I want to show you something here. Let me zoom in. These are made in America, but look how, dinged up this is. Some imperfections there. Okay, these threads are a little bit chewed up. Same thing over here. On the male threads, look at this lip in here. Okay, look at all these imperfections as you turn this in the light. Imperfection there. We have some dents here in the threads. Okay, this is why these wind up leaking. It's partly because they're not threaded in far enough because they seal that way. But all of these tiny imperfections you see here wind up being pathways for water to leak out of. And if you know about water that's under pressure, your home is 40, 50, 60, 70 PSI, it will find its way through all of these little imperfections and wind up leaking, which is why we have to use something like a Teflon tape or a pipe dope. Now, I posted a video like this before, and you have all these people that think they're geniuses and snarky, and they say, it's not a sealant, it's a lubricant. Teflon's a lubricant, it's not a sealant. First of all, if Teflon was strictly only a lubricant only, and that's all that it was doing, then we could just apply motor oil, or we could apply vegetable oil, or a food-safe lubricant. And in theory, if it's just a lubricant, then that would make it watertight seal. If it's just lubricating, allowing us to tighten it further. But it's not. It's a lubricant and a sealant. And how it's acting is this Teflon tape here, regardless of make or brand, what's happening is this Teflon tape when you tighten the fitting, it is getting squeezed and crushed down in, and it's filling these crevices and all these little imperfections you see, it's jamming in there and packing it in there, causing that to seal it. And same thing here with this pipe dope, okay? The pipe dope, you know, it is a lubricant, but it's also a sealant, and the manufacturer says it's a sealant. And another point I want to make is look how gritty this is. If this was only here to act as a lubricant, then the manufacturer wouldn't put this gritty material in. A lot of them, it can be sand and silica and even stuff like cornstarch powder in there, if you read the MSDS sheets. So if it was only a lubricant, they wouldn't put stuff in there to make it gritty. So it's both lubricating the threads so you can tighten these in tighter, but it's also filling all these gaps in there. So enough of that. Let me address the actual Teflon tape first, and then we will talk about application. So, you know, what type of Teflon tape is the best? You will see this here very commonly, this very thin paper white stuff that is just, I mean, it's flimsy, it's thin, you can see through it, you know? Like, look, you can see, look how you can see through that. Okay, this stuff here, in my opinion, it's no good. It can work, and if you have to use this stuff, if that's all that you have, this will work. I'll just tell you right off the bat, you're going to want to use 6 to 7 wraps, 6, 7, 8 wraps of this thin white stuff. If if this isn't a 2 o'clock in the morning emergency repair and you have time to go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, Tractor Supply, whoever, a plumbing supply house, there's much better options. And I'm going to showcase some of these. First of all, the color doesn't really matter all that much. The color is actually, it's a branding and a marketing thing. And you will have some people tell you that, you know, yellow is gas tape, blue is water tape, etc. I have talked to the manufacturers. I have sent emails to the manufacturers, to people like Odie and Millrose, people that actually manufacture this stuff. And when you speak to them, they will tell you that the color is basically a dye. It's a coloration dye to differentiate their different products, and it really doesn't have any practical difference on the actual tape. And the only place where that is actually not really true is in these green ones that are meant for oxygen, because they make sure they have no VOCs, volatile organic compounds, that could, you know, get into oxygen lines. But if you're working on oxygen lines, you don't need to watch my video. You already have all the training and education experience you need. So let's say you go down to Lowe's, Home Depot. You know, what do you look for? Any of these tapes, honestly, are fine. And the difference between this and one of these super thin white Teflon tapes are these are several times thicker. They're actually easier to work with because they don't want to just, you know, crinkle and fold and bunch up on you. But I can't convey this in a video. I mean, I can tell you the label says right here that it's 3.5 mils thick. But all I can just tell you for a fact is these are definitely thicker. And so what that means is they're easier to work with, but you also need less wraps of these. These here, you know, you only need 3 to 4 wraps, whereas with this really thin white stuff, you're going to need 7, 8 wraps. So, you know, a good one here, Hercules Mega Tape. It's an excellent tape. Go ahead and use it. Blue Monster here is blue. This is also an excellent tape. Go ahead and use it. This Blue Monster gas guard right here, you know, they say it's for gas. In some places, they have to use a yellow tape because, you know, inspectors for plumbing and gas, some places it's by code, it's required to use yellow. That doesn't mean that you can't use this on water. It's just marketed and branded for gas. Okay, we have some more yellow tapes here. And these are also yellow, but you read the labels and they tell you that they're safe for water too. I showed you the green already. I mean, has anybody seen pink Teflon tape? This is pink right here, you know, and you read the labels and they all say that you can use them on gas, you know, natural gas, whatever, you know, petroleum products, water, etc. So if you want a white tape, this Venom stuff here, see 2 times thicker, Jumbo Roll Pro Grade. This is just a thick white one. This Blue Monster Silver Seal, you know, this is silver. So does it really matter for your use case? No, it really doesn't. if you're going to be working on, you know, stainless, silver, you know, brushed plumbing fixtures, go ahead and use the Mega Tape or the OD Fast Tape or the Silver Seal. It's going to blend in better. But, you know, if you're trying to make a repair at home, is the color of the tape going to make a difference on whether it leaks or not? No. Go ahead and use whichever one you have. Don't get all wrapped up on the color. So now let's quickly, you know, I'm trying to make this as brief as I can, but I also want to educate you. It would be a disservice if I didn't explain some of this stuff. So how do you actually apply Teflon tape? Well, let's talk about that. Let me just show you this Mega Tape here for an example. You open this roll up, all right, and here's your Teflon tape. Now, some people, and not to be gross, but some people will debate like the toilet paper roll. Do you leave it with it, you know, facing forward or out? Doesn't necessarily make a difference, but I will tell you that when you're applying this, if it's facing backwards here and you have it wrapped like this, if you're right-handed, it's easier to work with, okay? So let me just talk for one other second here. So you see these tapered threads here. You want to leave the first thread kind of bare and exposed. And the reason for that is when you go to put it into the female part of the fitting, when you go to start it, if that first thread is covered in Teflon tape, it can actually be hard to get it to fit into here. You can have a hard time doing that. And so you want to leave the very first thread here bare and exposed so it fits in easily. But also the other reason is if it's sticking out past here, what can happen is pieces can break and tear off, and then they flow into the pipe and they wind up going into stuff like aerators on your kitchen sink, your shower head, and they can cause clogs. So for those two reasons, leave the first, you know, first little portion of threads bare. All right. And so when you go to wrap this here, what you want to do is, again, leave the first part bare, just like that. You can see how there's still some, let me get this centered over here better. I'm looking through a camera lens, so it's actually a little bit unnatural feeling. And you're going to want to use, you know, kind of, you know, like one finger to hold it in place, because this will just slip off. It's like it's got Teflon, and you're just going to go around. So, you know, we got 1, 2, and see, I got a little bit there, but this is just a training video. 3, and 4. Okay, 4 wraps, that's good for this. And again, I told you to leave the first thread bare. If there's a little bit sticking out here, it's not the end of the world. And again, this is a training video, so you don't have to leave a nasty comment about, oh, you got a little bit on the first thread. It's, you know, it's unnecessary. So there we go. So we got 4 wraps, all right. If you're using Teflon tape only, I would go 4 or 5 wraps of this stuff, because the excess is just going to get shoved out the back of the thread. And if you're making an emergency plumbing repair, or, you know, you're a young kid that doesn't have maybe the types of parents that can help you with this, in your financial state, you can't get a plumber, you don't want to be messing with leaks and stuff. Just, you can use a little bit more. And so when you thread it in here, what happens is it winds up getting squished in between those threads. And you can already see that right there. It gets squished down in between there. And that's what fills this up, making this watertight. So something important that I'm sure people are going to mention, and I want to address it before you leave the comment if you haven't already, is you always apply Teflon tape. Let me pull this off of here so we can do this again. Your Teflon tape, yeah, see, look at this stuff. This is how it clogs up your threads, and that's what you want it to do. Your Teflon tape, you always apply it in a clockwise direction. So no matter what orientation you're fitting in, it doesn't matter. Just visualize, if you're looking at it straight on, you know, the hands on a clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you always want to go in a clockwise direction. And the reason being is that when you thread this in here, if you went the other way, if you went counterclockwise, what happens is as you thread it in, it's actually going to back the Teflon tape out and remove it, which is not what you want. And so because of that reason, you always go in a clockwise direction. Okay, so one more time. We get our Teflon tape started, and we go around. 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, 4.5. You pull it, and there you go. That's a good application of Teflon tape. So keep that in mind. Just pick a good quality Teflon tape. The brand doesn't matter. And, you know, do 4 to 5 wraps of it. Leave the first thread open and do it clockwise direction, and you'll be good. That'll be a great fitting there. So, pipe dopes, okay? Where do these come into play, and what are they? Pipe dopes are just basically a liquid variant to this. This is Blue Monster here. Let me stir this up a little bit. And you can see it here. It's very goopy, very messy. All right, let me put a little bit dab on there. This stuff's really messy to work with, and right there, you'll get it on your fingers. I promise you, you will get it on your fingers. So just like I told you, the tape doesn't really matter so much, the color. The same's kind of true for, you know, pipe dope. There are all kinds of different colors, and they have different ingredients. There are special types, but any of these ones I'm going to show you here are perfectly fine for your residential use. See, this is a white one. This is a typical white pipe dope. This is Rector Seal T+2 pipe thread sealant. That's fine to use. This one right here is a very common one in the gas world. I believe in New York City, this is all they use on gas. This is Rector Seal number 5. This kind of has almost like a, that's very runny right now because this is an old tube. But this kind of has like a yellow, you know, mustard appearance. Yeah, this is actually kind of separated in here. It's a lot more, yeah, gritty. See it right there? That's what it should look like. If you leave these tubes somewhere where it gets cold or they're old, they will separate some. So don't apply it when it's liquidy like that. You want to get it, you know, mixed in there. Those are fine. Hercules Mega Lock. This is another blue one. And my point being, does it really, again, see how they separate? You want to kind of knead them and mix them in the tube before you apply them. Does it really matter? No. As long as they are rated for what you need, and they pretty much all are about the same. If you read the labels and the ingredients and instructions, these are all pretty much all rated the same. As long as they're rated for what you're using them on, which would be water or gas, they're fine. And brand loyalty is kind of stupid in a lot of times. Just pick any one of these. You go to your local Lowe's, Home Depot, get a tube of whatever. They're going to be perfectly fine for you. Don't worry about it and stress out about it. Just, you know, get what you need and it's fine. So my final thing I'm going to say here, and you'll get debates on this, and let me just say this. I have never heard 3 plumbers agree on this. It completely matters on who trained you and where you're at and your personal preference. You can talk to 100 professional licensed career, the most professional, you know, union plumbers. Some will tell you only use Teflon tape. Some will tell you only use pipe dope. Some will tell you I only use both. You'll never get them to agree on it. Don't get so caught up on that. It doesn't really make, just don't get caught up on that. What I will tell you this is, don't worry so much about the appearance of it. You know, you're down in your basement replacing a water heater or a leaking pipe, or you're putting on a new shower head. Like, the purpose is not to have leaks. You don't want a water leak. So just use a little bit more because the excess can always get pushed out of the threads. And me personally, I'm not worried about what a threaded fitting in a plumbing pipe looks like down in the basement. All I care about is, do I have a big puddle of water on my floor? So what I do personally to avoid leaks, and I've done actual plumbing work with this, and I don't have leaks ever using this method. What I'll do, and this is what I recommend you do, get a good quality Teflon tape, do about 4 wraps with Teflon tape, and then take some pipe dope. You don't need a whole bunch, and just go over it and just dab on some pipe dope on it too. Over top of the Teflon tape is fine. Just like that. You don't need a bunch, okay? And that's it right there. Yep, just like that. That's good enough. And then if you were to thread this fitting in here and tighten it up, you will not have a leak. I almost promise you, you will not have a leak. The very last thing, and that's the end of this video, if you've stuck around, thank you. I sincerely thank you. There's effort and time put into these videos, and they're free to watch. When you tighten these fittings, get them as hand tight as you can get them. And then once they are hand tight, you kind of have to go by feel. But what I will tell you is a good rule of thumb is after they're totally hand tight, usually an additional about 2 rotations usually gets you right about where you need to be. Again, it's all by feel. You have to feel it. But about 2 full rotations after hand tight is usually pretty good. If it feels like you're going to crack and break the fitting, obviously stop. Or if it's still very loose after 2 whole turns, keep going. You got to go by feel. But in summary, use a good Teflon tape. Don't worry about the brand. Just use a good one. Do 4 to 5 wraps. If you have cheap white Teflon tape, use 7-8 wraps. Apply a little bit of pipe dope on the outside. And if your pipe dope is separated and runny, make sure you stir it up. You will have to stir the pipe dope. And then tighten it hand tight, and then go with a wrench, making it tighter until it, just feels nice and tight. If you do that, you won't have leaks. Thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you want to leave a nasty, rude comment, it's just going to get deleted. But thank you for watching. I hope this helps somebody. I sincerely do.